Welcome to Sexually Liberated. Today I want to talk to you about how when you get stuck in the cycle of putting everyone else's needs first, how that can truly impede your pleasure. And as a result, your orgasms, your ability to ask for what you want, to even know what it is that you want. And oftentimes it starts at being in this pattern of everyone else's needs are more important than your own. So first, let me back up. My name is Brittany Castro. I am a sexual empowerment specialist, sexologist, and lineage-based tantra practitioner, and I support women over 35 in transforming their relationship with sex and having the most empowered, embodied, charismatic, passionate, desirable sex and pleasure of their lives. Literally of their lives, all over and over again. What I hear is, I've never experienced this before. I've never experienced this kind of orgasm. I've never experienced this kind of empowerment. I've never experienced this kind of confidence. Okay, so let's talk about how to get there, especially if you are so used to putting your partner's needs in front of your own, your kids' needs in front of your own, your friends' needs in front of your own, whoever it is, that you often tend to be on the back burner. So I want to start with a story about one of my partners. I tend to attract people pleasers because I'm a bit of the opposite, right? I'm a little bit of an edge pusher. And so for people pleasers, it's kind of like a moth to the flame. And where I am now in my life is that I encourage the people in my life to have a voice and to have their autonomy and their sovereignty and to ask for what they need. And I have a partner who tends to not necessarily put his needs above others' needs in front of his own, but can be in that pleasing space. And as a result, sometimes, he can get blinders on the fact that there's other options that might be a little bit easier. And this happened recently where, it was like, we could do this or we could do this. And after some back and forth, I was like, where we had like B was the option, was what we were going to do. And I was like, wouldn't A make it be a little easier for you? And he was like, yes, it totally would. And I was like, well, why didn't you ask for that, like initially? And he was like, I just like didn't realize that there was another option. And this hit me, not necessarily like with him, we talked about it and it was fine. But this hit me in the sense of women and their pleasure. I didn't know that there was another option. I had these blinders on. This is what happens when we put other people's needs in front of our own, or we have a habit or a pattern of doing that. And all of a sudden, instead of having this wealth, this expansion of opportunities in front of us, of possibilities of how we may want to live, we may want to receive pleasure, we may have a desire, it all goes like, it gets like cut off. Because we're so used to actually not having that option, not having that type of freedom. And so this is something that we need to repattern. This is a nervous system response. Sometimes this is, a trigger. This is a trauma response for some, not for everyone, but for some. And so what do we do with this? And how do we make it so that it's not impacting our pleasure? Because one of the number one things the number one thing with my clients that I see so often is that they don't prioritize their pleasure. Sometimes this looks like they don't prioritize themselves at all. They don't prioritize their self-care. They don't prioritize, taking time for themselves. They put everyone else's needs before their own. For some, it's very specific because they don't prioritize their own sexual pleasure. They have sexual pleasure with their partners, and maybe they are asking for what they need, but when it comes to solo sex, they're not doing that. Right? There's some kind of thread where it's, their pleasure isn't as prioritized as partnered pleasure, or their needs aren't as prioritized as everyone else around them. And pleasure and leaning into pleasure and growing our pleasure consciousness can support the shift so deeply, so that all of a sudden you move from being like, oh, I didn't even recognize that there was another option. Oh, I don't know what I want because I've never actually had the space to consider that. I don't know what I want because I don't feel safe truly receiving. That's another big one. When we start to grow our pleasure consciousness, we start to open up to the idea that in any given moment, we can have more than just fine, right? We can have more than just fine. That good enough doesn't have to be enough. That we can have amazing, spectacular, brilliant, beautiful in any given moment. And so this is what I want you to do. I want you to play with something called the 10 spot. 10 spot is an amazing, very simple practice that will transform your relationship with pleasure like that, like instantly. And as you continue to do it, it will begin to instill the understanding that you are worthy of so much more, that you are worthy of everything that you seek, what you desire, that it's already a seed. And for most of us, it's more than a seed. It's like a flower that has already blossomed and we just have to recognize it. So this is what I want you to do. In any given moment, I want you to recognize that you can have the scale between 1 and 10 of pleasure. 1 is not a lot of pleasure. 10 is the most pleasure you can experience in that moment. This doesn't mean that it's the most amazing experience of your whole entire life. That's not what this means. It's not always searching for more and more and more. It's in the moment recognizing, oh, I am so content. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. My needs are being met. This feels so good. So good. That's what it means, as opposed to, well, I'm not in the Maldives getting fanned by sexy people and fed grapes while my feet are getting rubbed, so it's not a 10. Like, that's not it. What it is that it just feels good. And so in any given moment, and I mean anywhere, like you could be in the grocery store, you could be with your lover or partner, you could be taking a walk. Literally, it could be this moment. You're watching this. And I want you to consider on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I on my scale of pleasure? How much pleasure am I experiencing? 1, not a lot. 10, a lot. I'm experiencing a lot. And if it's below 10, I want you to consider, is there anything that could bring me to a 10? Is there anything that could bring me to a 10? And if the answer is yes, I want you to go and get it or do it or whatever it is. So for example, if you're like, well, yes, I'm at like an 8, but like I'm a little cold. So go get a blanket or turn up your heat or put some socks on. I'm out at this restaurant and, I would really love this like glass of white wine. It would be so delicious. But I don't want to ask. It's kind of halfway through the meal and I don't want to put the server out, or, this meal needs a little bit of pepper, but I already asked for something before. I don't want to impose, right? Ask for the things that you want. If that's going to bring you to a 10, go get the things that you want. Put yourself out for a moment to actually then be able to lean into more pleasure, whatever it is. Okay. Now, you're not always going to get to a 10. You're not always going to be able to reach a 10. You might be outside having a delicious meal and you're a little chilly and you don't have a coat and there's not one in your car, and going inside would actually be less pleasurable for you because it's such a beautiful night. You're just a little chilly. So you're going to be at an 8 instead of a 10. And sometimes you recognize, oh, wait, I do have a coat in the car. You know what? I'll be right back. I'm going to go get that coat. Coat. Oh, I'm at a 10. Okay. Now, what does this do? This literally starts to rewire your brain, your nervous system around pleasure, because all of a sudden, instead of it's fine, I'll just settle for this, you're recognizing that you don't have to settle. And this is the important part, it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be an over-the-top thing. Getting to a 10 could literally be a matter of putting socks on or socks off, asking the server to get you, the glass of wine or the pepper or not. That's how simple sometimes it can be. And because we have those blinders on, because we're not used to actually prioritizing our pleasure, we don't think about it. And there's these little moments, almost like microaggressions to ourselves, where instead of just giving ourselves a little bit more pleasure, making things a little bit more easeful and graceful for ourselves, we choose to accept something else. Doing this practice every day, multiple times a day, will change your life. It is a life changer. It is a game changer. Because then, in moments where you're like, this isn't aligned, you can say so. You're going to start to become aware of what brings you pleasure. And then when you're in the bedroom, guess what's going to start happening? you're going to begin to notice what feels good. Those blinders are going to be down. Okay? It's going to be super powerful. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to play with the 10 spot. If you have any questions about it, or if you've done it, I would love to hear how that feels. You can DM me sexually_liberated on Instagram. And if you are ready, which if you're watching this, I know you are, to literally attune your nervous system, to be able to expand your pleasure capacity, to be able to feel safe in pleasure, to feel more desire, to feel more passion, to feel more empowered. I have a 3-day masterclass coming up April 15th to the 17th with replays available. The link is below. Go ahead and click the link, sign up. It is free, and I will see you there.